My name is Stephanie Sutter, and I am the Scouts BSA membership chair. I have the privilege of serving on the Scouts BSA committee and bringing a vision of membership success to all of the troops across the country. And we have this webinar series that we've established. This is webinar number 2, and it is part of the Troop Builder series. And tonight we are going to be talking about recruiting non-scouts and older youth. So beyond the crossover, right? You all spoke and we listened in our first webinar. And then, of course, we're always following our Scouts BSA social media page. And you all want to know, how can you bring scouts in, youth in that were not in Cub Scouts? So tonight we are going to focus all about recruiting non-scouts and older youth. And I have 2 panelists with me tonight. They come from the Chief Seattle Council, and they have 2 units that are 2 troops that they have grown substantially from older scouts, middle school age scouts, specifically girls as well. So I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves. And as we present tonight, if you have any questions, you can drop them in the Q&A portion of our webinar, and we will try to get to them at the end. We have a lot of great, amazing content to bring to you tonight, and we want to hear from our panelists because they are walking the walk and not just talking the talk. So we want to make sure that we give them plenty of opportunity to share their best practices and things that we have picked up from across the country as well too. But if you have any questions, do drop them in. We will be recording this webinar and we will be posting it on our membership corner page, and we will be answering some of these questions not only at the end of the webinar, but also through our Scouts BSA Facebook page and on our membership corner. So thank you for joining us tonight, and let's go ahead and get this party started with Mrs. Alva.
All right. Thanks, Stephanie. All right. Well, I am Catherine. Very happy to be here tonight. Here's a little bit about my scouting history. So currently, I am the Troop Advancement Chair for our troop in the Chief Seattle Council. We were 2 troops, but we have just this year, at the beginning of January, merged into a single family troop, which is super exciting for us. I was the troop membership chair from 2024 until just recently. I handed the keys over to a very eager mom who was happy to take over and take that responsibility from me. So now I help guide her and support her while I'm being the advancement chair, and I don't have to do it both. Prior to that, I was involved with Cub Scouts. I was our PAC committee chair for about 4 years, and I was a den leader since 2019. So through all of that, I was just kind of generally aware of many hats and sometimes crocodiles. And I started out my scouting career with my son. In 2019, he was a tiger then. And then last year, my niece joined. And so I now have 2 scouts in the troop, and she is doing awesome. They're both just thriving and having a great time. They are 12, turning 13 shortly. And so it's their second year well, first year for my niece, year and a half for my son in the troop. And it's been just a joy to be there. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Jacob.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Alva. My name is Jacob Mori. I am a sophomore in high school. On the slide here, I have a little bit about me. I started in PAC 214 in the Orange County Council. I then became a Boy Scout in Troop 616. And then I became a Boy Scout at Troop 420, so here in Chief Seattle Council. And I am a CSR staff. So I do things, I work at Piggott and Camp Edward, so I help out with Trail to First Class and outdoor activities in the camp. And then I am currently the SPL of Troop 420, and I love fly fishing and mountain biking as well.
So, Jacob, you are not only an active scout in your unit, you're also on staff at your area camps, and also have a very busy life. You actually compete with mountain biking, right?
I do. Yes.
That's amazing. So we're going to get into that in a little bit later when we talk about how we are recruiting and retaining our older scouts, because this is such a fun age for them where you can start getting involved in. I mean, we know in Cub Scouts they can be involved in many activities, but once you start to get to that high school age, things get a little bit busier and more active. So Jacob is definitely living a very active life inside and outside of scouting. So I'm so thrilled to have them here with us tonight, and we're going to get to hear about their recruiting efforts. But let's talk about why middle school and why now. So, middle school is actually a really great time to begin recruiting youth into scouting. We're going to get into a little bit of statistics in a minute, but this is a great time for those non-crossover scouts. There is a whole group of kids that have been missed that were maybe not joiners in elementary school that are just waiting to be asked, and they are your middle school age kids. Or maybe they are not as active in some of the activities that they were in as elementary school students because maybe the commitment to their sport or whatever their club was that they were involved in is starting to get a little bit more advanced or time encompassing that they aren't able to or don't want to commit to. So you have a whole bunch of middle schoolers that are just looking for the next activity that they can join. And we want to bring them into something that is real and meaningful. So, Catherine, can you go ahead and walk us through that next slide? We're going to talk a little bit about the current and most relevant history, especially in girls in scouting.
Mhm. So when I think about recruiting middle schoolers, I'm thinking about two groups. One, it's going to be any kid that wasn't a Cub Scout, right? And then two, it's a lot of our girls because the history of recruiting to girls is not as long as it has been for boys. A lot of families aren't even aware still that girls can join scouting. We only really started with that in 2018 when girls were allowed into family packs. Um, After that, we they would have to join a girls only troop. So if they were a family, maybe a younger sibling, that pipeline to a troop wasn't as clear as it is now. But Scouts has made some changes over the years. So in 2019, with the more inclusive name from Boy Scouts to Scouts BSA, in 2025 with Scouting America, and then finally this year now we're incorporating family troops, just like our troop. So now we've got the full pipeline of family packs to family troops. So there's more of a pathway for girls, but it's not that old. I mean, that was only what, 8 years ago. Many of us on the call have kids that are older than 8 years. So that's to think about that and the full history of scouting. It's just a very short time. And in fact, a girl who joined as a lion in 2018 would have only been crossing over with her pack to a troop in 2024. So it's not that long ago. This is kind of the first cohort of middle schoolers who would have had that opportunity to have been Cub Scouts all the way through, as if for the girls at least. But also we have to acknowledge that something happened in the middle there. So in this very short time, we had a couple years where COVID impacted the joining of troops as well. My own personal pack, I was den leader in 2019. My son joined as a tiger. We had 13 tigers. I did not know what I was signing up for when I said I would take that assignment on. We had about six at the time. We ballooned to 13 quickly, and I was like, oh my gosh, 13 first graders is a lot of boys in my house. Um, but we made it work. And then the the COVID shutdown happened, and our area specifically was very impacted in the Seattle area. We shut down pretty quickly, and pretty substantially. And so in the fall of 2020, I had about five tigers that came back to doing remote online scouting, and we maintained that as best as we could. But we definitely felt that reduction in our pack. And we can see this in the membership data from Scouting America as well. So this is the membership numbers year over year. And COVID essentially created a lost generation of Cub Scouts. So the dip between 2019 membership and 2020 for Cub Scouts dropped significantly, even more in percentage than for Scouts BSA, about 40% drop. That's a huge, huge loss. So this is kind of a lost generation of kids. They didn't have a chance to get recruited to. They didn't have a chance to start during those key years of kindergarten, first and second grade. And what's most important about those kids is that if they were in kindergarten through second grade in 2020, they are today's middle schoolers. So these are the same exact kids. These are the kids that didn't get the chance to join. So maybe they wanted to be in Cub Scouts, but the world happened and they weren't able to. And so now we have this opportunity where they're looking at joining things. They're starting middle school. Maybe they're in sixth grade now and they're looking around at all the sports and activities that they can bring into their life because middle school is kind of a second wave of being able to join activities. And so we want to also present Scouts again to them as like, hey, this is something that you could do, that you could be a part of. And it's really not too late. It's okay that you weren't a Cub Scout. So now the task is how do we go find those kids? How do we find the lost generation that didn't have the opportunity to become Cub Scouts or the girls who didn't know that they had the ability to move through the program until now?
And we see that all of the time when we're out and about in the community of, I didn't know that scouting still existed, right? Or I didn't know that girls could join. It is our job as the leaders that are out and about in our communities to make sure that we are using every opportunity to recruit. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about the retention aspect towards the end. But I know that this story is not just relative to your pack, your troop. This is happening nationwide. I know many of you on the call tonight are experiencing the same gap that we have in this entire generation that was missed out on recruiting. And this slide is so powerful and often not looked at this way that kids that were in kindergarten and second grade in 2020 are now today's sixth through eighth graders. So this is why middle school, this is why now. And we're not late. We're right on time with this generation. So I want to make sure that you all know you're not late. You are right on time with this generation of kids. And we're going to talk about how we can recruit them and bring them in. But we often hear a lot of barriers. But what about? Ooh, I don't think we can because, yeah, but, right? We hear a lot of excuses and a lot of barriers. So, this is where we'd like to talk back and forth between Jacob and Mrs. Alva. So I feel behind, right? We often hear from the feedback from our unit leaders that they're having a hard time bringing in those older youth because they feel like they're behind and like there are a whole bunch of scouts that might already be in the know and have knowledge that they don't have. So, Jacob, how do you address these newer recruits from middle school that weren't ever in Cub Scouting? How do you make them feel not behind?
Yeah, so something that we do in our troop is whenever we have a recruiting event or we have new scouts coming in, we want to make sure they're feeling comfortable and that they have someone that they feel comfortable talking to. And a lot of times they aren't very comfortable talking to adult leaders. You know, adults are kind of scary. I think they're scary, um, but it's very easy to talk to like a small leader like me or just scouts in general. And so having just a group of people, so we in our troop, we use troop guides and we kind of give them that resource. And when they're comfortable to come in, start doing the activities with us, it's great. Um, and this gives us a lot more diversity in our troop. And that's just a little bit of something that we do in our troop to help with that.
And I know one thing that you said, you make sure that you welcome them immediately, that it's not
Mhm.
a grown-up welcoming them, that you make sure that the youth are always prepared to welcome anyone who might come by at any time. And it's not just the adult saying, hey, Jacob, you should go say hi to them. Like you're already aware and the head on the swivel.
Mhm.
Alrighty. So, Catherine, how do we address the parents who might be unaware and don't understand the expectations, the cost, the time commitment, etc., that they could even register their middle schooler for scouting?
Mhm. Yeah, I get a lot of questions about that. They New parents don't necessarily know how the program works, so they don't know, is it like for a few months, like soccer is a season? So wait, scouting is year round? Does that mean this is all my kid can do? Um, how much do we have to commit to this? How much is it going to cost? Something that parents learn with middle school sports is that if you join a team, a baseball team, you've got tournament fees, you've got travel time and the uniforms, and oh my gosh, it can add up a lot. And so is this something that's going to cost me a lot over time? And the truth that I tell them is that scouting is a choose your own adventure. Kids progress at their own speed, at their own rate. They participate in the things that they want to do. And so that means that they can pick and choose how it fits into their life. They don't have to go to every meeting. It helps if you do, but they're not getting a grade at the end of the day and missing things for other commitments in their life. That's okay. It's all understandable. They have until they turn 18 to earn Eagle if that's a thing they want. And I stress that a lot too, that that's not part of the mission of scouting is to turn kids into Eagle Scouts. It's just to prepare the youth for the future. And so anything that a scout can participate in, I think is a bonus, it's a plus. And so the time commitments, you do what works for your family. And if that means your scout isn't, a 13-year-old Eagle Scout, that's fine. They have so much time. And so we want them to be able to balance their life and the expectations and then I also tell them about cost. The costs for scouting are generally lower than most kids' sports, not factoring in like high adventure trips and travel and things like that. Those can add up. But summer camp for a week is super reasonable compared to that soccer camp you might put your kid in for 3 hours a day for a week. You send your kid to summer camp for a whole week and they stay there and they feed them and they get to do activities and it's a pretty good deal and scouting in general is pretty thrifty is one of the points of the scout law. And so, our campouts, they're not extravagant. That's not very costly. For us in the Pacific Northwest, sometimes there's a ferry, charge. We have to go over the ferries, but generally these are all pretty attainable and easy things. So it's just a matter of like explaining how it works and the types of activities that they might be participating in, and then how that can work into their life.
So that is so true that it takes a little bit extra conversation, and we'll get into that in a little bit about how you onboard. But Jacob, so talking about this kind of choose your own adventure, and at the older age where maybe they're trying to juggle and balance lots of different activities, especially when we get to the point that like our parents aren't driving these youth to the events and they have to choose to keep going. How do you manage as an older scout the busy schedule? And how do you talk to these older youth about why they should choose scouting in addition to, not in replacement of, but in addition to their other activities?
Yeah, so in my experience in past, scouting has been it's really important to me because it's taught me a lot about how to be a leader, a role model, and how to be a better person in the future. So it's not necessarily a class, it's much better than a class. It's a lot more fun. And it looks good on your college application. That's a big one. But something the middle schoolers like to feel included. So when you have them, like let's just say their parents aren't taking them and they need to go into a car, we tend to have other scouts in that car and it makes them feel more included. Um, there's some other things, but I'm not sure if you want me to touch on that.
I do. I would love for you to, because we do have some questions about like how do we get them to actually attend and come and
Hmm.
show up from when they might not have this clear invitation to join.
Yeah,
How
for sure.
how do you have that clear invite and bring them in? How do you hook them?
So on our Troop website, we one way is there's a contacting our Troop website that t takes them to our Troop website. They can get emails from our website, and then on our website we have photos of all the activities we do, and we tend to post that on our website, and that can really get them to be like, oh, this looks fun, and then they come to our meeting.
That's awesome. And I know that we're going to talk a little bit more about some of those onboarding strategies, but let's get into the recruitment in action. So, your troop has created a really fun game that they can play at the events. But more importantly, we don't just have a booth with information and flyers and QR codes while very important, and that is that information piece that they have, you also have scouts in action doing things and participating. So I want to let the audience know that for SYT reasons, we don't have pictures of the youth doing the recruiting activities. We have used a little bit of Photoshop to take them out of the images. However, just know that they do exist in the background. Isn't that right, Jacob? You guys are,
Yep.
you use the phrase all the time when we talk, you are showing them what scouting is, not telling them. So, can you tell me, Jacob, how you're showing them what scouting is all about at some of these recruiting events and where some of these recruiting events are? And then we can have Mrs. Alva hop in a little bit more.
Yeah, so at these recruiting events, we usually have an activity in the background. In this one here, I believe there's either a paracord one, so they can come and do an interactive activity where you make paracord bracelets. This one, I think, Miss Alva, correct me if I'm wrong, that's a board of merit badges, I believe, on the table. And it's kind of like a game where you flip them, you kind of match the merit badges. And then we advertised our tree lot. So we do a lot of tree lot activities. So there was some information on one of, again, our activities. We sell trees for our fundraiser for our troop. Um, and we do this at high schools, local high schools, and then we also do it at a tree lighting ceremony in Bothell.
Yeah. So I attended there was like a fall recruitment webinar back in, I think, August. And one of the suggestions was to show up at your middle schools. And that was something I hadn't thought of. And so I was like, that's so easy. Every middle school has a curriculum night. And it's geared specifically for sixth grade families that are learning about the school. They're learning about, the layout of the school and all the programs and things. And so this school, this is the one that my son goes to. They had a whole setup in the cafeteria. That's why you see the prison bars behind you. That's the cafeteria area. Um, and so they let us set up in there, and we were just part of the community of options. It was so easy. All it took was an email to the school office managers and the principal and vice principal. And I just said, hey, we're in your community. We have a new girls troop we're trying to recruit for. We'd love to just get the word out that scouting is still here and we're stronger than ever. And this is a great opportunity. And they said, absolutely. So the worst they can say is no. And the best they can say is yes. And it's very easy. So I asked a couple of the students that go to that specific school to join me. And so I think, they know their peers. It's easier to talk to them at their own schools. And so I matched up the schools with the kids and said, I'm going to be there. Come help me out. And I think what's important about that is that I could stand there and talk to the kids, but I'm just some crazy old lady with purple hair. Like they don't want to talk to me. If I'm telling them about all the fun things that they can do at summer camp, it's so different from if an actual middle schooler is like, oh my gosh, and it's so cool because I got to shoot a shotgun and I made like 10 of my shots and it was so fun. And they let you do that. And then we jumped off the dock and we climbed the tower. Like the kids have the enthusiasm for it, and it's just so much more meaningful. I can talk to the parents while the kids are talking to the scouts. So this is our recruiting table, just for inspiration. We have just a simple table with a tablecloth that I made our logo on it with a cricket, little sign up sheet if you want to get more information. And I decorated it with some cute little things. Like we have this little, like a cute little light up lantern. Um, for outdoor events, I have these little brass frogs I don't know if you can see that on the screen with my background. And that helps to weight down the papers, but it also makes it really fun that, there's these little elements of the outdoors. And I have this little tent full of stickers. So kids love stickers. So we have that. And then we also have one of our assistant scout masters made this game. And what it is a set of poker chips where he has glued on the image of each of the merit badges available. And then in the board are round spots where the poker chips can go into, and the spots just say the name of the merit badge. So the challenge is that the kids have to look at the little chip and see what does that merit badge look like it might represent. And some of them are really hard, like radio and skating. Um, some of them you would never guess. The kids are like, I don't know what that is. And it's fun because it draws the kids in. They like to have something interactive, but it's also great because it shows them the breadth of all the activities that they could do as scouts. So things that you may not think would be a merit badge. And so, mining in society, that's interesting. And so parents will come over and take a look and go, wow, this is a lot of stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, we do all kinds of things. Scouts can get exposed to so much in the world. So much stuff that's outside of what they would learn in the classroom in school. So we have a lot of fun at these events. And then the other thing that we do as a troop is I try to show up wherever our scouts are going to be at community events. So this is the tree lighting community festival that Jacob was talking about. We also help out with our 4th of July pancake breakfast with the fire department. So our scouts are actually in uniform. Flipping pancakes and serving pancakes and cleaning up the tables and helping the people sort their trash into compost and recycling and teaching them about that. So while our scouts are out doing that activity, I set up my little table off to the side. And I actually have 2 scouts at a time. I pull them off of the, table busing crew and come over and help me at the table so that they're the ones speaking with the families. And it's not just me standing there alone. Um, and I think that that's really important because the scout representation there is just the thing that they want to see. Another thing that I do at the table, and you can see in my little video here off to the side, is I set up a laptop with a slideshow, and I show some photos and videos of our adventures. And I think that, a picture speaks a thousand words. Like nobody wants me to tell them what they do, but if they can see it there, it really like draws them in and they go, "Oh man, that looks really fun. That looks like a fun trip. Where was that?" And then it just opens up the conversation of, "Oh yeah, well, this was a great trip. We just went a couple months ago. We went up to this lake. It's only about an hour away and it's a 2-mile hike. It was super easy. We had kids as young as 11 on this hike. We backpacked, we stayed for a night, and then we came home, and it was great. The kids learned a lot about backpacking in rainy weather, how to start a fire with wet wood. Like we made it happen. But it's just a great opener. And so the more that you can show versus tell, and the more that you can put scouts on display, I think that's going to send the message to the public much better.
So, one of the questions that I asked Jacob when we were talking in all of our pre-meetings is, as the SPL, have you ever come into an instance where scouts in your troop feel like maybe it's not their responsibility to be a part of the recruitment process? And I'm going to let you answer, but you were so genuine with your answer. This was very captivating to me.
Yeah. So yes, we've had that happen before, and it is tough. There are some scouts that just don't, you know, listen, and that's a choice. That's okay. I tend to go to if that happens, I tend to go to the troop guides, and I've mentioned that earlier in this meeting, I believe. The troop guides are super, super helpful. They're always like, yeah, totally, I'll help out. They don't argue, and they are the go-to people if I need someone to help with a recruiting event.
And the other thing that I think is so important to make sure that we reiterate is this isn't just a standalone recruiting table. It's always paired up with an activity that is already happening in the community or at a school. So many times people say, well, we can't get into the schools. We're not allowed in the schools. There's so many different community events happening in every single community. And even if you have a lot of different packs and troops that might also be present, that's okay. Choice is so important in picking and choosing the right troop to join. Every family has different needs and availability on different nights of the week. And so the fact that you're out and about in the community and representing scouting and have scouts providing a service and also sharing their passion and love of scouting. So not only are they maybe earning their own way through a fundraiser while you're recruiting or providing a service to the fire department and busing tables for a pancake breakfast, but they're also there to actively engage with the families that are present, and you never know who you're going to run into, and you never know whose attention you're going to capture, where they take a wander over and say, hey, tell me more. I saw those scouts working really hard, and I want my son or daughter to do the same thing. So there's so many different opportunities. You just have to look for them as well. Let's talk about, so you've now got their attention, right? You've been to the middle school curriculum nights or the high school open houses or club nights. And then you have welcome nights. And Jacob, will you tell me about how you all go about recruiting non-crossovers, non-Cub Scouts to some of these welcome nights and the activities that you provide?
Yeah, so some of the things that our scouts and our troop do is they reach out at their schools. I know a couple of scouts in our troop who have recruited from their school, and it's great because they already have a friend and they are comfortable with coming to the troop. They already have someone they can talk to. They have someone who they can hang out with and do the activity with. Um, some of the things that we do in our troop, for example, we did one maybe a couple weeks ago. It was a fire starting one, and the scouts loved it. I had a scout come up to me, or yeah, a younger scout that hadn't joined the troop yet, but wanted to join the troop, say he loved it and he's definitely going to join the troop. And that made me really happy. Um, and I can't mention enough, our troop guys did a great job at running that fire starting event. Um, and we also do not events. We make it fun. I mentioned earlier and to Miss Alva, we did a lashing one, and then they had to try and get a mouse trap. It was safe, but it was a lot of fun, and the scouts loved it. So those are just kind of the things that we do in our troop to help recruit. We want to make it fun, and we want them to come back.
And also
And
this.
it's a lot of, I was just going to say, I hear a lot of hands-on experiences, right? We are, again, you go back to showing them, not telling them. So go ahead, Catherine.
I was going to say, our scouts, they need to invite a friend to a scouting event for a first class rank. It's actually built into the program. And so, if we have a good planned activity, that makes it easy for the scouts to say, okay, I'm going for first class and I need to invite my friend. So, I'm going to go on the cookout night because that sounds like a fun one that we've designated to have friends join us. Um, something where they can get involved, something that's more, because we do have some troop meetings that are more focused on just serious topics of safety or proper footwear. And that while those are important, that's not necessarily the most fun event to bring a prospective scout to. So picking and choosing or having like a designated planned activity that's made for those scouts to come is always going to be, more successful for that kid.
And one of the things when you're doing your recruiting event, and we're looking kind of at that anatomy of a recruiting event. So on your next slide, you have what does that look like, and what should we do the recipe for making connections. And again, we cannot talk enough about that youth-led aspect of all of this. When we talk to troops across the country on their retention of scouts, their retention of older scouts, and bringing in scouts that are not just crossovers. It all stems to the youth-led ability of the unit. They have the input, they are planning, they're involved, and they're empowered to grow their unit and share their love of scouting with as many friends as they possibly can. So Jacob talked a lot about those hands-on games, some of those quick challenges. Always knots are an easy thing. We talked about it earlier. It's a fun little fidget, and sometimes challenging enough too that they need to ask for help. And we use the edge model in scouting, right? And we know that kids learn best, and adults, from experiential learning. And so before they even know it, they are learning some scouting skills at their very first meeting. And they're learning. I like Jacob when you said, a smaller leader, like a youth leader, not not the big scary grown-ups. They get to come to you and talk to you. Will you talk to us, Jacob, about your input and your ILST process? Because you already know your calendar and your schedule, because you do ILST how often in your unit?
We do it every 6 months, I believe. Is that correct? Yes, every 6 months.
Spring and fall.
Okay, and tell me about your ILST, and what you're doing at ILST. And I know that you're doing them also not just in the conventional, at a on a weekend meeting. You've done them at a camp out too as well.
hmm Yeah.
Okay,
So
so walk us
we
through.
hmm So we take a whole weekend usually. We go to Camp Edward, which is our local scout camp where we can go camping. It's really easy to get a campsite there. What we tend to do at ILST is we do, like you said, calendar planning, but we also do a lot of hands-on games and activities. So teamwork building, that's a big one. Scouts can have fun doing that. And what's great about our calendar planning is we don't have our adults planning each month, like, okay, today we're going to do this and that. Next week we're going to do that. We have our scouts say what they want to do. So if a younger scout comes in and says, I really like fishing. Well, guess what? We're going to do fishing and it's going to happen. And that's what I really like about our ILST is that we can literally do anything within reason, of course. We have some guidelines in scouts, but that's what makes scouts want to come to our troop or just troops in general is having the ability to express their appreciate or their interests and not have to be forced to do something they don't want to do.
I love how you said if they're interested in doing it, we're going to do it and make sure it happens, not
hmm
just put it on the calendar or say, yeah, we can look into that. And of course, we need to follow Guide to Safe Scouting, and SYT, and making sure that we're safe. But you're listening, and not just listening, but you're acting upon what they're interested in doing. How does that make you feel as a youth? Like, how empowering is that to actually have a voice and have that be heard and acted upon?
It feels amazing, you know? You get to, it's basically like, yeah, you're the leader and you feel like almost like an adult, you know? You're like, okay, I'm gonna plan this, I'm gonna plan this camp out, we're gonna do all this, and then when it happens, you're like, I just planned a camp out by myself or with the help of somebody. And it like I think you were gonna mention it before, it's great when you fail safely, and then I personally don't like it when adults help me or just help us in general because when you get through that challenge, you accomplish something. You were able to do it with the help of your partner, your buddy, and you didn't need to receive help from an adult. You were able to figure it out by yourself. And that's great.
I love that, and thank you so much for. I was absolutely going to bring that up when we talked before. Jacob said, "When adults don't help and we fail, it feels so good because I actually solved the problem. I actually learned something." And I think that sometimes as adults we forget that we want to protect them, especially parents. We want to make sure, that they're safe and happy and healthy, but the joy, I mean, look, I could hear it in his voice when he told me this the first time, and to see it on his face of the joy in, a little bit of struggle, a little bit of challenge, and that excitement of overcoming that challenge and the growth that comes with that. That's scouting, right? That is scouting in a nutshell. So let's go talk about, yeah, what is a good recruiting event not?
So it's not a lecture. It's not me standing up saying these are 5 great points about scouting. It's not death by PowerPoint. Um, it's not an adult dominating, so we're going to have youth there. I believe that anytime I'm there representing scouting at the recruiting table, or if any parent is, there has to be youth there. Like that's just the point of the program. If it's just me standing there talking about it, that's defeating the purpose. And it's not really the best advertising for being youth led, right? And then also, it's not your scoutmaster doing it. Empower a membership chair. Get somebody into that role. Scoutmasters are already taxed enough with so many things to do. So if you're the scoutmaster feeling like you're running it all, find some help. Easier said than done, but like, yeah, it should definitely be somebody's job. And it's not a big job. It's a great small role that a parent who's not ready to be an ASM or take on, committee chair. That's huge. Well, hey, can you just, help us answer some emails and set up some recruiting events and, make sure we have enough flyers on hand and work with the scouts on this. This is a very easy thing to get a parent into a role for.
I like to call them parking lot parents because everyone's willing to have that conversation in the parking lot before or after or during a meeting about how scouting has impacted their family, or just to be helpful on where to find information, or, kind of like, I know that this looks like chaos, but it's really not. And so that is a low stakes, low entry position into being able to be helpful. And it does take so much time off of the Scoutmaster, the ASM, and the committee chair, um, advancement chair. I mean, all the people that are wearing many hats and hands on with the youth, that parking lot parent, that membership chair that can just kind of be a big sister, big brother to the new parents involved, and give them a little bit of reassurance that it will be fine. So you are going to take us through some of your awesome flyers that you have created for your unit. And I know you are all going to ask in our Q&A, where can we get these? And if you stay tuned for just 2 or 3 more slides, we will have a resource for you. But Mrs. Alva is going to talk about their specific flyers that they have and how they're utilized.
So I use the resources available from Scouting America's Media Center. You can look it up online. It's easily accessible by anybody. They have a bunch of photos and things that you can use. And I put together a simple half sheet flyer brochure with a QR code to our website. It's just a simple teaser. And then when we were recruiting for girls, when we were starting our girls troop, we really went specifically for girls. So I have this, strong girls build strong futures. Kind of tagline. And I made these social media tiles that we posted in different community groups and school groups in our area, and those got a lot of traction. There was a lot of conversation in the comments about like, oh, I didn't know this was for girls, and a lot of the questions we get is, what's the difference between Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and or Scouts BSA? For people that don't know the difference, and so this is a great place for the community to chime in, and we had a lot of parents commenting on these as well, saying, oh yeah, it's great. And so these are really easy, low cost tactics to just have some collateral that you can just print and have at the ready. Another thing that I do is I look out for community boards. So I have some laminated just printouts. Oh, I am disappearing into my background here. And I keep them in my car with a staple gun. And if I'm somewhere where there is a community board, like parks will often have these, it's a great place to put something. You've already got kids that are potentially enjoying the outdoors, and so this is right up their alley. So local trails, trailheads, anywhere where there's an info board, this is a great thing to just post up. Your local libraries will have an info bulletin board on the way in. Even the city hall, or your schools, they may be willing to put one up in the cafeteria or a place where the kids gather. So that's a very easy thing to do. Just print out, laminate, keep them in your glove compartment for when you see an opportunity. I've been known to pull over on the side of the road and go, "Oh, that's a great little sign area. I should pull over and put one up there." And one has lived a real long time just down the street from me. I think it's been up for 2 years now, and I drive by it and I go, "Oh, look, my sign's still there. Nobody's taken it down." So yeah, these are very simple things to do.
And so we have resources that are on our. So yeah, before we get into that, we can't forget about the Cubs.
Right.
I skipped ahead. So sorry. But on this, as you're out and about in the community or at middle school nights, you never know who's going to have a little sibling in tow. Or maybe it's the little sibling that's awake at 7 a.m. for the pancake breakfast while older brother or sister is at home sleeping in, because we know those middle schoolers and high schoolers love to sleep in as much as possible. And so while we are talking tonight about middle school recruitment, we can't forget about the Cubs. I feel that it is everyone's responsibility to recruit all ages for packs and troops anytime. We're sharing scouting in the community. And so have information available, even if it's just as simple as go to beascout.org and type in your zip code and you'll be able to find a pack. Not dismissing them and saying, oh, well, we're only here talking about our 11 through 17-year olds, making sure that you know that there are resources for Cubs in your area as well. And then, of course, we cannot forget to mention, even though it is middle school night recruitment, don't forget the Pinewood Derby events or working on short hikes, helping with a build clinic. I know that this troop does a lot with hosting a build event for their packs in the area so that it's helpful to the families that maybe don't have access to tools and haven't ever built a Pinewood Derby car. And it's a really great way to get the scouts involved in helping the younger kids build their Pinewood Derby track. So let's get into some of the other resources. I'm going to have you skip ahead because we have a couple of those questions, and then we'll go back. I know I'm taking you out of order, Catherine. So the assets and resources, because I know so many of you are asking this right now in our Q&A, you can go to our membership corner and we will have that linked in our chat. But it is also, if you just type in membership corner into Google, you will find it, but it is on the Scouts BSA program website. And we'd have a whole middle school recruitment package available for you. We have social media posts, we have text message posts, we have pictures, we have resources. You can fill in your own troop information on the blank part of that slide. We even have ideas of how you can incentivize your troops to participate in recruiting. So if you bring a friend, do you get to have your next meal cooked by a scoutmaster at a campout? We have a lot of great fun ideas with our middle school recruitment asset that we have available on the membership corner, and it can also be found on the Brand Center website. So I'm so sorry, Catherine. We'll go back to the other assets on onboarding and how your troop onboards those new families.
Yeah, so onboarding, oh gosh, where am I? There we go. Um, So we've had a lot of growth in the past year. So I took a look at our troop specifically. We had 7 Cubs that crossed over from packs in the area, just kind of small, but a decent sized patrol. And we had 15 scouts that came in with no scouting history, and that's inclusive of all of our girls. So the challenge in the last year was how do we help everybody with what they need, right? How do we get the information to all of these new scouts who are joining at different times? They've all joined throughout, some of the girls came in January and we had a few in April and some last fall. Like, they're all coming in staggered. It's not like Cubs where they cross over all at the same time. So how do we have support built into our troop? To be able to help these scouts as well as their parents, because it's a different need. They don't have the history with Cub Scouts of saying the Scout Oath and Law at the beginning of every single pack meeting for the last 5 years. This is all completely new to them, and it can be overwhelming. So we took a look at what our older youth need, and they just need some more support, right? They need extra patience and some encouragement, they may be slower to get to the first scout rank because they just don't know it all. They weren't an arrow of light. For an arrow of light, a scout rank is real easy. It's just a repeat of what they had just done previously. But for a new scout, this is all foreign territory. So we like to make sure that our scouts feel a sense of belonging before advancement. So like that's not the most important thing for them. They need to kind of get the basics. They need to feel like this is a place that's warm and supporting, filled with new friends and new opportunities, and the advancement will follow. So some things that we do for that are to kind of set them up, like Jacob was saying earlier about buddy systems, pairing up new or younger scouts with an experienced older scout. And then another thing that we've run into too is that new scouts, they not only don't have history with the program, but they may have never camped before. They might not have any gear. We had a scout join last year, and his family said he wants to go camping, and we don't know how to do that. We don't camp. And the mom was so sweet. She said, I'm never going to go camping, but I will support in whatever way he wants to if you guys take him camping. And then she was like, please send me a list of everything he needs because he didn't even have a sleeping bag yet. And I said, honestly, have him go on a few campouts. Let's borrow some gear. Don't spend money right away. Let's get him into it and then have him learn what he needs and then tell you. And then maybe, put it into birthday wish lists and stuff like that and work it out over time. But we never want a lack of gear to be something that prevents a scout from joining or participating right away. Um, and we have the same experience with parents as well. So they don't have the history of having coming up through the Cub of having come up through the Cub program. So it's not ingrained into them of what this stands for and what the experience is supposed to be. Some new parents don't know what their role is. They may overstep and try and do things for the kids because they feel that that's what parents do. Well, not here. That's not the way it works here. This is scout led. They're supposed to figure it out. So there's a lot of training that we have to do with new parents. Also, some of the parents may never have done these outdoor activities either. So having an event that we can train the parents on as well is great. So this is something that we added to our troop this year. We actually are going to have in the spring a parents camp out where we're kind of going to do a mini trail to first class with the parents of kind of teaching them how this stuff works, how to support your scout in an appropriate way from afar. And kind of getting them comfortable with the idea because if they can do a one night quick local camp out, maybe they'll be willing to join us on some of the bigger events and get them more into the fold. Um,
And so, Jacob, can you talk to me a little bit about these new scouts as they come? And like you said, sometimes they might be shy. They might need a little bit of extra patience and assistance and that buddy system. But how do you encourage them and explain what youth led is, and that talk to your PL, your patrol leader, and the SPL?
Yeah, so we kind of do that a little bit at our PLC meetings. This is a great way where they can it's actually an amazing way because at our PLC, it's kind of like a mini ILST, but just for the month. And they get to see the SPL, the patrol leaders all congregate because everybody's welcome to our PLCs. We all congregate and we all discuss the next month's calendar. So we plan it out, we discuss, we make the calls, we make the decisions with some support of the adults, of course, to make sure everything's safe. And again, all the guidelines are met for BSA. But yeah, it's all youth led at our PLCs. We all get to talk, we all get to make suggestions, and our dates, times, everything's discussed there. And that's a little bit of a way of scouts who have just come in get to see younger scouts lead and plan in a way where adults aren't really in it.
I
You know what I mean?
absolutely love to hear that the PLC is an open meeting for the non patrol leader council to be in attendance. I think that that is a great way for them to get to witness and see, and then maybe it's not as daunting as an opportunity when they do run for leadership because they already got to be a little bit of a fly on the wall. I think that that is an amazing thing that you all offer so that they can see that and see the I always like to call it the sausage being made, the behind the scenes work of how a troop runs. How organized and spot on and perfect are your PLCs? Are they amazingly perfect in all the ways, or are they a little messy and chaotic at times?
They're pretty good. When it gets chaotic, it can be a good thing because there's a lot of ideas and they're all coming out, and it's something that I write down, and there's a scribe who helps me write it down, and it's great because all of those ideas usually are put on the calendar, and then it makes the scout really happy.
Ah, that is so good to hear. Okay, so we're going to get into, we have just a few minutes left in our webinar tonight. We're going to get into how you do the parent orientation because it sounds like the scouts get to go hang out with the youth and the youth leadership. And while the parent orientation is happening, the scouts are off doing scouty things, trail to first class, some mark off activities and some games. And then you do these twice a year, right?
Yes. So we
Okay.
have a dedicated parent orientation night in the spring after Cubs are crossed over, but then we also do it again in the fall. So we're capturing all those new scouts that are joining outside of the Cub pipeline, all of the kids that are coming in the new school year. And so it's a great opportunity to revisit this information. Our fall parent orientation, we also pair with our State of the Troop announcements. So we talk a lot about finances and upcoming events, and then we sprinkle in some refreshers on this. And this is just geared for the adults. This is a PowerPoint. And like I said earlier, recruiting does not look like PowerPoints for scouts. This is for the adults. This is for them to have the information that they need. This is also backed up on our website so they can access this information anytime. And it just covers everything from how our troop is run, how to RSVP for events, how to find the information you need, all the way to just like what is rank advancement? What are the ranks? And we even have a slide, if you can see it down in the bottom left corner, that has terminology. Like what is PLC? We all just were saying PLC because us on this specific meeting, we know what PLC means. A new parent doesn't. They don't know anything. They're like, what is the OA? What the order of the arrow? What is that? So this is an opportunity for us to just recap all that really quick and bring those new parents in with some great information. And we found that twice a year is a really successful amount of time to do that, to be able to capture those spring cubs and then everybody else who comes in throughout the year. Yeah. So if you don't do something like this, I highly recommend having just a slide deck about your troop and the ideology behind your troop, what the kinds of things you do, and all the info that they would need.
And it's also important, I believe you mentioned that bringing in the current families into this is a little bit of a refresher because sometimes they will forget or it might not have been as relevant to them with the first time they heard it. We all know that scaffolding we can build off of the knowledge and repeat exposure to things helps it sink in a little bit more. And Jacob, you guys said that you really would much rather onboard these new scouts by the fun, the games, the activity, and that buddy system that exists. So they're not getting a new scout orientation as youth. They're off enjoying and learning from you all and participating in the PLC as well. Is there
Yes.
anything else that you'd like to add to that on how you ensure that they feel like they can keep coming back for more?
Yeah, so making it fun, I guess. So when we do, like I said earlier in the meeting, when we do our recruitment meetings or an activity, making it fun. So not having like Miss Alva said earlier, not having a presentation or not making it like about socks, about hiking shoes. That's really boring. Very bad. Don't do that. But making it about fire, um, getting toting shit or your fireman shit, that's a great way. It's really fun for the scouts because they get to not only learn how to safely use a knife, but they get to carve things, use a knife. That's something not a lot of people get to do safely. So, yeah, basically, if I could wrap that up, it's fun, making it really fun.
Make it fun and they'll want to come back for more. Jacob, I have a question for you. And I know that we are just a couple minutes over, but I have two or three questions that I think would be important to answer. For your ILST that you all host, is it just troop leadership, or do you invite younger scouts who aren't quite in a leadership position yet to come?
Yeah, it's anybody. In our
Okay.
ILST, we also talk about leadership. We get them the terms and knowledge that they need. We have a whole section we teach about the EDGE method and about how to be a good leader. So it's a great place for them to come to. And yeah, it is open to everybody.
And then what about there's a comment in here, their troop doesn't use troop guides and they are curious what position that is. Will you give us what a troop guide is in a nutshell?
Yeah, so it's a little bit like a den chief, but it's kind of like a den chief for the troop. So they get to welcome in the cubs or newer scouts, and they make them feel comfortable in the troop. They're always with them most of the time. Um, and when they come into the troop, they basically guide them. So if they have a question, they'll answer it. If they're curious about something, they'll answer it. If they need help, they'll be there. So yeah, that's a little bit of what a troop guide is.
I like to think of the troop guide, like you said, as the den chief and a little bit of the extension of the membership chair too, that they get to work with those new scouts and make sure to check in with them. So I also wanted to touch on a little bit. There was a question in here about connecting with the packs, and you mentioned a den chief being similar to a troop guide being similar to a den chief. And we're just going to give a quick shout out. If you're not using den chiefs at the troop level, down to packs in your community, you don't have to have a sister or a brother or family pack that is linked to your charter organization. It could be any pack in the area that you have scouts that are available to spend time with. So that den chief position is so important to help build that bridge between Cub Scouts and the troop. Um, Jacob, you guys have den chiefs that are going out to the packs, correct?
We have multiple den chiefs that do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know for my kids, they definitely have a lot of fun when they are learning at the pack level from that older scout that's a den chief. It gets them excited and they know what's coming next too. So as Jacob hit on it multiple times, youth want to connect with other youth. They don't want to talk to adults. They don't want to necessarily learn from adults because sometimes we can be scary or boring, and having that youth connectivity is so important. So we are over our time for this evening. I will remind everyone that this recording will be on our membership corner, and you can find that on our Scouts BSA program page in our resources. We have our membership corner, and then also thank you so much to Jacob and Mrs. Alva. Your troop is doing amazing things in Chief Seattle Council, and I know that there are other troops like yours across the country that are following similar best practices. And Jacob, being able to hear from you as a youth and understand what it's like to be a scout in the program right now and how empowering it is for that youth-led component, and that goes directly into recruitment and retention. And to put it in the words of Jacob, just have fun. Just have fun, and everyone will want to come back for more. So, Catherine, Jacob, thank you so much. Garfield, behind the scenes, we appreciate your time. And to all of our leaders and families who have joined us on a Sunday evening, we hope that you have the best night and a great week. And we will see you around on Facebook. You can like and follow us on the Scouts BSA page on Facebook for more tips and tricks and ways to grow your troop. So everyone have a lovely night. Thank you so much.